Captain Midnight.
This video is brought to you by Squarespace. It's been a long time since Carol Danvers first appeared in comic books in early 1968, and her journey to finally being Captain Marvel wasn't always a smooth one. Constantly reworked, reimagined, and given different superhero identities, Carol always seemed to be in a state of flux. But the past 10 years or so have really brought some stability to the character and her characterization, and it seems like Kelly Sue DeConnick's popular run on Captain Marvel will kind of serve as the inspiration behind the MCU's new film. So let's dig into the new trailer and the setting that it quickly establishes for itself, the mid-90s. The way that they conveyed this, with Carol falling through a blockbuster, was pretty smart and interesting to me. Like VW Bugs for the 60s and disco balls for the 70s, it seems like Blockbuster and kind of VHS nostalgia in general is kind of becoming the quick shorthand to communicate the 1990s. And at least here it's doing its job really well, quickly giving viewers an idea of the time frame they're in without ever having to really mention it. Then the narration kicks in and gives us a small peek into the movie's plot. Nothing too concrete really, but definitely something to go off of. And it looks like Carol not remembering her past is going to play a huge role. And I have to say, I'm not totally sure how I feel about that. To me at least, it seems like there's both advantages and disadvantages, so I'll start with the good stuff. Despite insisting that this movie is definitely not an origin story, the whole memory loss angle allows the screenwriter to have their cake and eat it too. A phrase that I've noticed I lean on way too much, but I think it's true. The movie will probably start with Carol already well established as a hero, but she'll also need all the backstory that the audience needs in order to make sense of it. This is a smart way to catch non-comic readers up on the story while not having to spend a whole movie on, power discovery montages, which I think we've had plenty of in the last 15 years or so that's really smart. But it's a very tricky plot device to use too, because here's the thing. Unless that's what the story is explicitly about, like Memento or the early Bourne movies, people with amnesia are kind of boring. The lead of your movie should not be a blank slate unless there's a really good reason for it. So I'm really hoping that Captain Marvel either dispenses with the whole amnesia thing quickly, or has found a very smart way to use it. And of course we have to talk about the two big returning characters, Phil Coulson and Nick Fury. The MCU has been pretty content to just leave him alone over on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. after his death in the Avengers, and I get why. Reintroducing him in Age of Ultron would have brought that already overstuffed movie to a screeching halt, as the characters who were so impacted by his death would have to have an entire season of TV kind of explained to them. So it's much easier for them to just slap some more hair on the guy and put him in a prequel film. As for Nick Fury, I'm pretty impressed with the job they did with making Sam Jackson look younger. I've always been frustrated that MCU Fury, with the exception of Winter Soldier probably, has never really gotten enough to do. So I'm really excited to see him here too. Oh, and of course we have to talk about the villains. And this is where things get a little less clear. It's really interesting to me that Ronan, one of the weaker elements of Guardians of the Galaxy, is making his return. It'd kind of be like if Malekith just popped up in Black Panther or something. I really wasn't expecting it. But of course, given the fact that Captain Marvel is occupying more of that cosmic Marvel space, it does make a little more sense. It would be a really cool surprise if they were able to give Ronan a little more depth, and with Marvel getting increasingly better at crafting villains, I wouldn't be surprised if they were able to. The Skrulls are also set to play a big part in this story, and I'm honestly super excited about that. For those of you who don't know, these guys are a bunch of shape-shifting aliens at constant war with the Kree, and I can't wait to see the MCU jump headfirst into all of that, which I think from the old lady punching they kind of are. I've always loved these guys. Don't get me wrong, they've been involved in plenty of bad storylines in the past, but a good Skrull story is pretty tough to beat. It's kind of like John Carpenter's The Thing, but played out on a global scale. They can be used to ratchet up the tension and paranoia really well, and I hope they eventually find their way over to an Avengers movie as well, because it can be a really good time when our heroes don't entirely trust each other. I have no idea what they have planned for them here, but I think it does look promising, and I really hope this is just the beginning for the Skrulls. But what about Carol Danvers herself? Well, obviously it's far too early to judge Brie Larson's performance, but I have pretty high expectations. Larson has been great in comedic roles, like her guest spots on Community, and some really dramatic ones, like the painfully underappreciated short term 12. So I think Danvers is in pretty good hands. The real question mark is the script, which is obviously pretty hard to gauge the quality of from just a trailer. But I've liked a lot of the screenwriter's past work, so I'm not too worried about it.
Finally, Miss Marvel is reborn!
Where's Rogue? Shell!
At the end of the day though, what I really want to see Captain Marvel do is balance two sides of the MCU that have always been a little bit separate. Cosmic Marvel, represented by movies like Thor Ragnarok and Guardians of the Galaxy, and the more grounded setting, seen in the Winter Soldier and Civil War. Sure, you can say that Infinity War kind of already did this, but that movie kept everything a little bit separate. Like, it didn't have scenes with, say, Rocket hanging out with Cap and Falcon. Captain Marvel will need to take a little bit of the espionage thriller, a little bit of the weird sci-fi, and of course, a little bit of Top Gun, and combine them all to make a movie that all feels of a piece with each other. And that's probably hard to pull off, but the MCU has had a lot more hits than misses in the past few years, so I'm really looking forward to seeing them try. It looks like Captain Marvel is going all in on mid-90s nostalgia, and that should be a good time. But if there's one thing I'm not nostalgic for, it's trying to build a good-looking website on the early internet. That's definitely not a problem now though, thanks to Squarespace. No matter what you're doing online, from starting a blog to showcasing your work, selling some cool stuff you made, promoting your business, or pretty much anything else, the best way to do it is with Squarespace. What I love about Squarespace is that the sites always look good, since they're made by world-class designers. But they're also totally customizable, and have a great e-commerce feature that lets you sell your product online really easily. And the best part is they have award-winning 24/7 customer service, and there's never anything to patch or upgrade. So whatever you're looking to do, make it a reality with Squarespace. Go to squarespace.com/CaptainMidnight and use the offer code CaptainMidnight, all one word, to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. You can find that link in the pinned comment or video description below.
Here's a special tip for the fellas and girls who have not already joined Captain Midnight's new 1940 Flight Patrol. You'd better hurry up and join at once, because there's a big adventure ahead. The thing to do now is to get started, because we're going to have not only barrels of fun, but loads of free gifts and prizes too.